Hi everybody. Today I will be talking about the elderly and disaster. My name is Arisa Isayas and this is my oral presentation. First of all, we are going over information that we already know. In the face of any natural disaster, different protocols need to be taken to maintain the residents' safety. This goes to any officials or agencies that are working or activated during a disaster, and this also applied to any resident or person that are facing the disaster, or that they need to take safety on their own hands. At times, these protocols are different for what type of disaster is presented, and depending on the ability of the person faced with this disaster, the protocol might change. This goes like saying that in a hurricane, the protocols might change compared to earthquake, and the residents and people should be informed about what to do when are faced with different type of natural disasters. It is known that the elderly are at higher risk when disaster happens and need to prepare differently for any outcome that might occur. In this presentation, I will go over how the elderly population needs to be taken in consideration and how to prepare for any natural disasters. What steps should be taken? Like the rest of the citizens, the elderly population needs to stay informed of what is happening during a natural disaster by following the news and any announcement by any governmental entity. It is critical that the elderly population stays informed during and after any natural disaster is presented in the area by listening to the news, the radio, or any governmental agency that has any announcements. That is critical to know what steps to take eventually and after the natural disaster has occurred. It is always important for the elderly to have a plan of action when any natural disaster occurs. This includes a plan for evacuation if the emergency is presented. With this plan, they need to consider any medical conditions they have and any medications they need to take if they get evacuated. Now going over medication. Compared to other residents/population, the elderly needs to take into consideration any medical conditions they have to plan properly when an emergency is presented. It is important to have a list of the medications the person takes or any equipment immunological that is needed for a specific condition. It is important to have the medications and or equipment arranged in case of evacuation. If there is time before a disaster strikes, like a hurricane is a natural disaster that will occur, the person should refill their medications for a long amount of time because it's never known how bad the outcome of the disaster will be. So it is important for them to have medication for a longer amount of time than usual. Another important aspect for the elderly population is to have a plan for when a disaster occurs. The elderly population should have a plan set in case of a natural disaster and in case of evacuation. This can be done by knowing what phenomena are common to occur in the area the person lives in. With this comes to have a kit prepared. This includes any medication necessary, a first aid kit, food, water, necessary equipment, and important documentation. The elderly population should also be informed about the different agencies that get activated in case of a disaster. This way, they can have a phone number to call when they need any type of help or assistance. Also, have a list of the people they know, like a friend or family, to have in hand. This helps with identifying the helpers that are available just in case they need any type of assistance. They know who is a reach and who can help in that situation. To conclude the presentation, there are some key points we can take from it. There are different ways the elderly population can prepare for a disaster and different aspects they need to consider as well. One of the most important aspects the elderly should consider is any medical conditions they have that require taking medication or any equipment they require, and take into consideration any disability they present. It is important that if they have time to prepare before a disaster, the person should have extra refill of important medication and keep in hand a medical record. It is also important for the elderly to create a community of people they have available in case they have an emergency. That could be friends or any family member. This also includes having phone numbers of agencies that activate in case of a disaster and in case they need extra help or assistance. To get informed about the dangers presented in the area where the person lives and take into consideration sitting in a shelter or with a person they trust if the area they live in is not safe. Have a kit prepared with everything the person needs in case of evacuation. Stay informed during and after the disaster and listen to the officials and the news. This concludes my presentation. Thank you for listening.